The earth shook violently as Michael Chen ran through the streets of San Francisco. The single father had already saved 3 people from the earthquake's destruction when he heard a cry for help. Following the sound, he found a young woman trapped under fallen concrete, her hand reaching out desperately. Without hesitation, he crawled through the dangerous rubble to reach her. Her terrified green eyes met his, and in that moment, something passed between them, something neither could explain. As he pulled her to safety, Michael had no idea he'd just rescued Alexandra Morrison, the missing heiress to a billion-dollar fortune. She'd been hiding from her old life, searching for something real in this unfamiliar city. Could fate have brought together 2 hearts from different worlds for a reason? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Michael's jade pendant swung against his chest as he crawled through the unstable rubble. Aftershocks rattled the debris around him, but he kept his focus on the outstretched hand ahead. Years of construction work had taught him how to read unstable structures, and everything about this situation screamed danger. "I'm coming!" he called out, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Just hold on!" The young woman's fingers trembled, reaching toward him through a gap in the concrete. Her expensive watch caught what little light filtered through the dust. A Cartier, though Michael wouldn't have known the brand. The timepiece's face was cracked, frozen at 2:47 p.m., marking the exact moment their lives would intertwine. "Can you move at all?" Michael asked, assessing the situation. The building groaned ominously above them. My leg is trapped," she managed between ragged breaths. "But I think it's just pinned, not crushed." Michael nodded, though she couldn't see him. He'd done this twice already today, the muscle memory of emergency response training kicking in. But something about this rescue felt different. Maybe it was the way she maintained her composure despite the terror in her eyes, or how she seemed to be fighting against more than just the physical weight trapping her. "I'm Michael," he said, trying to keep her focused as he worked. "Michael. Chen, and you are?" She hesitated, just a fraction too long. "Alex," she finally answered. "Just Alex." Another aftershock hit, sending cascades of dust and small debris raining down around them. Michael instinctively covered Alex's exposed hand with his own, shielding her from falling particles. Her fingers clutched his, desperately. "Okay, Alex," he said, his voice calm and sure. "Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to create a support with this beam, then lift the concrete just enough for you to pull yourself out. But you'll have to move fast. Can you do that?" "Yes," she said, with a determination that surprised him. "I'm ready." Michael positioned the fallen beam as a lever, wedging it securely against a stable portion of the wall. His hands, calloused from years of honest work, gripped the makeshift tool with practiced strength. In his mind, he could hear his late wife Sarah's voice from years ago. "Those hands of yours, Michael, they were made to build things, to help people." "On 3, he instructed. 1, 2, 3. With a grunt of effort, Michael heaved. Against the beam, the concrete shifted, lifting just enough. Alex pulled herself forward with remarkable strength, dragging her trapped leg free. As soon as she was clear, Michael let the weight drop, grabbing her around the waist and pulling her close against him, as debris crashed down where she'd been seconds before. They stayed like that for a moment, hearts pounding and synchronized, terror and relief. Alex's designer clothes were caked with dust and torn in places, her dark hair falling in disarray around her face. But it was her eyes that caught Michael's attention, deep green and filled with a complexity he couldn't quite read. "Thank you," she whispered, still trembling against him. "I thought I was going to—" "But you didn't," Michael cut in gently. "You're safe now." He helped her to her feet, supporting her weight as she tested her injured leg. It was bruised and scraped, but miraculously not broken. As they made their way carefully through the devastated building, Michael couldn't help but notice how she carried herself, even injured. There was a grace there, something that spoke of privilege, though she seemed to be trying to hide it. Outside, the street had transformed into an emergency response zone. Sirens wailed in the distance, and people huddled in groups, sharing water and comfort. Medical personnel were treating the injured, but they were clearly overwhelmed. "You should get that leg looked at," Michael said, nodding toward the nearest paramedic station. Alex's hand tightened on his arm. "No, I'm fine. Really. It's just bruised." There was that hesitation again, that hint of something held back. Before Michael could press the issue, a small voice cut through the chaos. "Dad! Dad!" Lucy, his 12-year-old daughter, was running toward them from the community center where he'd left her with their neighbors. Her dark ponytail bounced with each step, her face streaked with worried tears. "Lucy!" Michael caught her with his free arm, pulling her close. "I told you to stay with Mrs. Rodriguez." "I saw you helping people," Lucy said, her voice muffled against his dust-covered shirt. "I was scared." "I'm okay, sweetheart," he assured her, then turned to Alex. "This is my daughter, Lucy. Lucy, this is Alex. I just helped her out of that building." Lucy looked up at Alex with curious eyes. "Your clothes are fancy," she observed, with characteristic directness. "Even all dirty." Alex shifted uncomfortably, tugging at her torn sleeve. "They're just clothes," she said softly. "They don't matter." "Much now, do they?" Michael noticed how she avoided meeting Lucy's innocent gaze, as if afraid the child might see something in her that others had missed. The jade pendant at his throat seemed to grow heavier, reminding him of Sarah's words about trusting his instincts about people. "Listen," he said, making a decision. "Our apartment is just a few blocks from here, and it's in a newer building. Should be safer than most places right now. Why don't you come with us, at least until things settle down? You can clean up, rest." "That leg!" Alex opened her mouth as if to refuse, then looked around at the chaos surrounding them. Emergency vehicles were still arriving, and people were being evacuated from other buildings in the area. Her hesitation was clear. This wasn't a decision someone like her was used to making. "Please?" Lucy added, already warming to the stranger. "Dad makes really good soup when people don't feel good." A small smile flickered across Alex's face, perhaps the first genuine one since the earthquake. "Soup sounds nice," she admitted, "if you're sure it's not too much trouble." "Helping people is never trouble," Michael said firmly, thinking of Sarah again. She'd been the one who taught him that, who showed him how to open their home to others in need. "Come on, we should get off the street before another aftershock hits." Michael's construction worker ID badge caught the fading light as he unlocked the door to their third-floor apartment. The building had weathered the earthquake well, with only a few visible cracks in the hallway walls. Alex limped beside him, one hand on Lucy's shoulder for support, trying to hide her wince with each step. "It's not much," Michael said apologetically as they entered, "but it's home." The apartment was modest but neat, a testament to single-parent discipline. Framed photos lined the walls, mostly of Lucy at various ages. A few showed a beautiful Asian woman with a bright smile, Sarah, though Alex didn't know that yet. Books and toys were organized in well-worn shelves, and a small desk in the corner held Lucy's schoolwork. "You can use the bathroom to clean up," Michael offered, gesturing down the short hallway. "Lucy, can you grab the first aid kit and some clean towels?" Lucy nodded eagerly, happy to help. As she disappeared into the hallway, Alex took in her surroundings with careful eyes. Everything here spoke of a life lived authentically, so different from the carefully curated spaces she'd grown up in. "Really, I can't thank you enough," Alex said, her voice soft. She reached for her torn pocket reflexively, then froze. "My phone, my wallet. They probably fell out during the earthquake," Michael said, noting her panic. "Don't worry about it now. We can figure things out once you've rested." In the bathroom, Alex finally faced herself in the mirror. Dust and small scratches covered. Her face and her expensive clothes were ruined, but it was her eyes that held her attention. They looked different somehow, more real than they had in months. She heard Lucy and Michael moving around outside, their voices a gentle murmur through the walls. Lucy was asking questions about soup ingredients, and Michael was answering with patient amusement. The domestic normalcy of it made Alex's throat tight. After cleaning up as best she could, using the basic drugstore soap and shampoo, Alex emerged, wearing borrowed clothes, an old t-shirt and sweatpants that Michael had left outside the door. They smelled of generic laundry detergent. Nothing like the designer fragrances she was used to. "Feel better?" Michael asked, looking up from where he was chopping vegetables at the small kitchen counter. Lucy sat at the table, carefully wrapping an ice pack in a towel. "Much," Alex said, then gestured to her leg. "Though I should probably—" "Here." Lucy jumped up, offering her the ice pack and first aid supplies. "Dad says we should elevate it too. You can use my special pillow." The girl's earnest helpfulness brought unexpected tears to Alex's eyes. When was the last time someone had offered her anything without an agenda? As evening settled in, aftershocks continued to rattle the building periodically. Each time, Lucy would tense up, and Michael would calmly narrate what was happening, explaining the different types of seismic waves, turning fear into a science lesson. "How do you know all this?" Alex asked during one such moment, genuinely curious. Michael touched his ID badge briefly. "Part of the job. Need to understand what we're building against." He stirred the soup simmering on the stove. "Plus, Lucy loves this kind of stuff. Right, kiddo? I got an A+ on my Earth Science project," Lucy announced proudly. "Dad helped me build a model of tectonic plates." Alex smiled, watching their easy interaction. Her own father had never cooked for her, never helped with homework. His idea of parenting had been hiring the best tutors money could buy. The soup, when Michael served it, was indeed excellent, simple but comforting. Alex couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten something that hadn't been prepared by a professional chef. "So," Michael said carefully as they finished eating, "do you have family we should try to contact once the phones are working again?" Alex's spoon paused halfway to her mouth. "No," she said after a moment. "No one who—" She trailed off, unable to find the right words without revealing too much. Michael studied her face, but didn't push. Instead, he said, "Well, you're welcome to stay here until things settle down. The couch isn't much, but it's comfortable enough. Can we watch a movie?" Lucy asked, sensing the tension and wanting to break it. "Since we probably won't have school tomorrow?" "One movie," Michael agreed. "Then bed. It's been a long day." As they settled in the small living room, Alex found herself wedged between Lucy's excited commentary about the animated film and Michael's solid, reassuring presence. The jade pendant he wore caught the light from the TV screen occasionally, and she wondered about its story. For the first time in months, Alexandra Morrison, though they didn't know her by that name yet, felt something close to peace. Here, in this modest apartment with these kind strangers, she could just be Alex, just be human. But as her borrowed phone buzzed with emergency alerts and updates about the earthquake's damage, she couldn't help but wonder, how long could this last? How long before her real world caught up with her? Morning light filtered through the apartment windows, catching dust motes in its beam. Alex woke on the couch, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings. Her leg ached, but less than yesterday. The sounds of quiet activity in the kitchen drew her attention. Through the doorway, she could see Michael and Lucy moving through what was clearly a well-practiced morning routine. Lucy sat at the small table, textbook open beside her breakfast, while Michael packed her lunch. A weathered family photo on the refrigerator caught Alex's eye. Michael, Lucy as a toddler, and a beautiful woman with kind eyes and Lucy's smile. "Oh, good, you're up," Lucy noticed her first. "Dad's making extra pancakes." "You don't have to," Alex started to protest. "Already done," Michael cut in, sliding a plate across the counter. "How's the leg?" Alex tested it carefully. "Better, thank you." She paused, watching Lucy gather her school things. "Is school open today?" "Emergency schedule," Michael explained. "Half days for now. The building's been cleared as safe." He hesitated, then added, "I need to check in at my construction site too. Will you be okay here?" The trust implicit in that question made Alex's chest tight. Here was a man willing to leave a stranger in his home, simply because she needed help. "I'll be fine," she managed. "Maybe I can clean up a bit to thank you for everything." Lucy bounded over, backpack in hand. "Can you make dinner? Dad always works late on Thursdays, and I'm tired of microwave meals." "Lucy," Michael admonished. But Alex was already nodding. "I'd like that," she said, surprising herself with how much she meant it. "Though I should warn you, I'm not much of a cook." Michael's eyes crinkled with amusement. "There are some basic recipes on the shelf by the stove. Nothing fancy, but they're pretty foolproof." He grabbed his work bag, the ID badge now clipped to his belt. "Come on, Lucy, we're running late." After they left, Alex stood in the quiet apartment, feeling strangely at home despite herself. The family photo drew her attention again. She stepped closer, studying the woman's face. The date stamp showed it was taken 8 years ago. The morning passed quickly as Alex busied herself with small tasks. She found comfort in the simple acts of tidying and organizing, so different from her past life of delegating every chore. When she discovered a basic pasta recipe that seemed manageable, she made a list of needed ingredients. The local grocery store was a revelation. Alex had never pushed a cart down fluorescent-lit aisles before, never compared prices or checked expiration dates. The normalcy of it all was intoxicating. Back at the apartment, she lost herself in the methodical process of cooking. The sauce didn't turn out quite right, but the effort itself felt meaningful. When Lucy returned from school, her face lit up at the sight of actual home-cooked food. "It smells like when Mom used to cook," Lucy said, dropping her backpack by the door. Then, noticing Alex's expression, she added quickly, "But different too. A good different." They settled into an afternoon routine. Lucy worked on homework, while Alex rested her leg, offering help with English assignments when she could. The girl's curiosity was boundless, her questions sometimes startlingly perceptive. "Why were you alone when the earthquake happened?" Lucy asked during a break. "Don't you have a family?" Alex's hand stilled on the page she was helping Lucy annotate. "Family is complicated sometimes," she said carefully. Lucy nodded with surprising understanding. "Like how I miss Mom even though I can barely remember her." Alex glanced at the family photo again. "Your mom looks like she was wonderful. Dad says she was the bravest person he knew. She got sick when I was little." Lucy traced patterns on her notebook. "But she made him promise to keep helping people. That's why we always have extra food and blankets in case someone needs them." The simple wisdom in those words made Alex's carefully constructed walls tremble. She thought of her own family's philosophy. Trust no one, show no weakness, maintain control at all costs. When Michael returned that evening, tired but pleased, to find them sharing a meal, Alex felt something shift inside her. The way Lucy excitedly showed him her finished homework, the way he listened with genuine interest despite his exhaustion, it painted a picture of what family could be. Later, as she settled onto the couch for another night, Alex found herself studying the family photo one last time. The happiness captured there wasn't perfect or polished, but it was real, more real than anything in the world she'd left behind. She touched her borrowed phone, ignoring the dozens of missed calls from numbers she recognized all too well. Tomorrow, she told herself, tomorrow she would figure out what to do about her real life. But for now, just for tonight, she wanted to hold on to this feeling of belonging. 5 days after the earthquake, normalcy was slowly returning to San Francisco. Alex had fallen into an unexpected rhythm with the Chen family, her presence fitting naturally into their daily routines. But that morning, everything changed with the delivery of the Sunday paper. Lucy was the one who found it first, spreading the newspaper across the breakfast table while Michael made coffee. There, on page 6, was a headline that made Alex's blood run cold. "Search continues for missing Morrison heiress." Below it, a photo that could have been taken yesterday. Alexandra Morrison at a charity gala, her practice smile perfect for the cameras. "Hey, she looks kind of like you," Lucy said, studying the picture. "Except fancy." Alex's hands trembled as she buttered her toast, trying to appear casual. "Oh, I don't see it." Michael glanced over, his eyes lingering on the photo a moment too long. She could almost see him making connections. Her expensive watch, her hesitation, about contact information, the way she'd stumbled over basic household tasks. "Says here she disappeared 3 months ago," Lucy continued, innocent of the tension building in the room. "Right after her dad announced she was taking over the company. They think she might have been kidnapped. But there's no ransom note. Probably just wanted some space," Michael said quietly, his gaze meeting Alex's. There was something in his expression, not accusation but understanding, that made her want to confess everything. Instead, she stood abruptly. "I should change this bandage," she said, gesturing to her healing leg and fleeing to the bathroom. Alone, Alex gripped the sink, staring at her reflection. The woman in the mirror barely resembled the polished heiress from the newspaper. Her hair was simply tied back, her borrowed clothes worn and comfortable. She looked real. A gentle knock interrupted her thoughts. "Alex?" Michael's voice was soft through the door. "Can we talk?" She opened the door to find him holding the newspaper, his expression gentle but serious. "Walk with me. Lucy's got her Sunday reading to finish." They ended up on the building's roof deck, a small urban garden space where a few determined plants had survived the earthquake. The morning fog was just burning off, revealing glimpses of the bay beyond the city skyline. "I'm not going to ask if it's you," Michael said finally, setting the newspaper between them on a bench. "That's your story to tell or not tell, but I need to know. Are you in danger? Is Lucy in danger by having you here?" The question hit Alex like a physical blow. Of course that would be his first concern. His daughter's safety. She shook her head quickly. "No, nothing like that. I'm not running from anything dangerous, just from expectations, from a life that never felt like mine." Michael nodded slowly. "The photo they're using, you look successful, accomplished." "I look empty," Alex corrected, finally letting her guard down. "Every smile was rehearsed, every achievement planned by my father's PR team. Do you know what made me run? They had my entire life mapped out, which charities I'd support, who I'd marry, how many children I'd have, and when. Even my coffee order was decided by someone else because it fit the image." She gestured at her simple outfit. "This is the first time I've worn clothes because they're comfortable, not because they're on brand. The first time I've cooked actual food instead of attending carefully orchestrated dinner parties. The first. And time I've felt real," Michael supplied, understanding in his eyes. "Real," she agreed softly. They sat in companionable silence for a moment, watching a pair of pigeons squabble over a piece of bread. Finally, Michael spoke again. "My wife Sarah," he said, touching his jade pendant, "she used to say that the truest measure of wealth was in the life you built, not the one you were given." Alex felt tears prick at her eyes. "She sounds wise." She was. Michael's smile was bittersweet. "Look, whatever you're running from or toward, that's your business. But if you're worried about Lucy and me judging you for who you were, don't. We like who you are now." The simple acceptance in those words made something break loose in Alex's chest. A lifetime of maintaining appearances, of meeting expectations, of never letting anyone see beyond the carefully constructed facade. All of it seemed to crack under the weight of Michael's quiet understanding. But before she could respond, his phone buzzed. The earthquake had damaged several buildings in his company's construction portfolio, and emergency inspections couldn't wait. As he stood to leave, he paused. "Just, whatever you decide to do, be careful. There are probably people looking for you who don't share my views on letting you find your own way." Alex watched him go, the newspaper still sitting between them like a ticking bomb. She picked it up, reading the article more carefully now. Her father's quoted comments were perfectly crafted to paint her as unstable, possibly traumatized, the kind of person who needed to be helped back to her proper place. The worst part was, until the earthquake, she'd almost believed it herself. The days that followed their rooftop conversation took on a different quality. Alex moved through the apartment with new lightness, as if sharing her secret, even partially, had lifted a weight she'd carried for too long. She found herself paying more attention to the small details of their daily life. The way Lucy hummed while doing homework, how Michael's eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled, the comfortable silence during shared meals. One afternoon, while Michael was at work, Lucy sat at the kitchen table surrounded by colored pencils and paper. She'd been unusually quiet, focused intently on her drawing. "What are you working on?" Alex asked, preparing a snack for them both. Something she'd gotten surprisingly good at over the past week. Lucy held up her artwork with pride. The drawing showed 3 figures holding hands. A tall man with dark hair, a small girl with a ponytail, and a woman with green eyes. Behind them was a simple house with a heart-shaped sun above. At the bottom, Lucy had written in careful letters, "My family. See?" Lucy pointed to each figure. "That's Dad, that's me, and that's you. Do you like it?" Alex's throat tightened as she studied the picture. She'd been featured in oil paintings worth thousands, had her portrait in magazines and newspapers, but nothing had ever moved her like this simple crayon drawing. "It's beautiful," she managed, her voice thick with emotion. "Can we put it on the fridge? Dad always puts my important drawings there." Alex helped her hang it with a magnet right next to the weathered family photo. The contrast between the two images, past and present, memory and possibility, made her heart ache in a way she couldn't quite name. That evening, when Michael returned home, he stopped short at the sight of the drawing. Alex watched nervously as he studied it, afraid he might find it presumptuous or inappropriate. Instead, he smiled, that gentle expression that made his eyes crinkle. "You've got the proportions right this time, Lucy," he said, ruffling his daughter's hair. "Been practicing. Ms. Rodriguez next door helped me with perspective." Lucy beamed. "Do you think Mom would like it?" Michael's hand went to his jade pendant, a gesture Alex had come to recognize as his way of connecting with Sarah's memory. "I think she'd love it. She always said art should come from the heart." Later, after Lucy had gone to bed, Alex found Michael still looking at the drawing. "I'm sorry if it makes you uncomfortable," she said softly. "I can take it down." "No," he shook his head. "It's good for her to express how she feels." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Lucy doesn't usually warm up to people this quickly. She's like Sarah that way, careful with her heart." Alex leaned against the counter, their shoulders almost touching. "I never had this, you know. The drawings on the fridge, the family dinners, the real conversations. Everything in my house was for show, perfect and cold and empty. And now I'm terrified," she admitted. "Not of being found, but of losing this. Of losing—" She gestured to the drawing, unable to finish the thought. Michael turned to face her, his expression serious. "Alex, or Alexandra, whatever you want to be called, you don't have to run forever. But you also don't have to go back to being someone you're not." "I like Alex," she said quietly. "Alexandra was my father's daughter. Alex feels more me." They stood in comfortable silence, looking at Lucy's drawing next to Sarah's photo. 2 versions of family, both real, both valuable in their own ways. "You know," Michael said finally, "Sarah used to say that family isn't about who you were born to, but who you choose to become together." Alex felt something warm unfurl in her chest. She really was wise, wasn't she? "The wisest person I knew." He smiled. "Until Lucy, maybe. Kid's got an old soul." Before Alex could respond, a notification lit up her borrowed phone. Another news. Alert about the missing Morrison heiress, this time speculating about her mental state and fitness to lead the company. Michael saw her expression darken. "Hey," he said gently, "whatever happens, you've got people in your corner now. Even if they express it in crayon." Alex laughed despite herself, wiping away unexpected tears. The drawing seemed to glow in the evening light, its simple lines containing more truth than any corporate portrait she'd ever posed for. That night, as she settled onto her familiar spot on the couch, Alex found herself thinking about choices, about the difference between the life you're given and the life you build, about how sometimes it takes losing everything to find what you really need. The business card appeared on a Tuesday. Michael found it tucked under the windshield wiper of his truck at the construction site. Crisp white cardstock with embossed black letters. James Barrett, private investigator. And beneath it, specializing in missing persons. He stood there in the morning sun, work boots covered in construction dust, staring at those innocent-looking words that carried so much weight. On the back, handwritten in precise script, regarding Alexandra Morrison. Call me. Michael's first instinct was to tear it up, but he slipped it into his pocket instead. Alex needed to know they were getting closer. Back at the apartment, Alex was teaching Lucy how to make dumplings, their hands covered in flour as they worked together at the kitchen counter. The domestic scene made his heart clench. How quickly they'd become a unit. How natural it felt. "Dad," Lucy called out, "look what Alex taught me. It's her grandmother's recipe." Alex looked up, her smile fading as she caught his expression. "Lucy, why don't you wash up? I think these need to rest for a while anyway." Once Lucy was out of earshot, Michael pulled out the business card. Alex's face went pale as she read it, her flour-covered fingers leaving smudges on the pristine cardstock. "They're asking about me at your work," she whispered. "I should go. I can't put you at risk like this." "Wait," Michael caught her arm gently. "Let's think this through. Running now might attract more attention than staying." Alex sank into a kitchen chair, the card trembling in her hands. "James Barrett. I know him. My father's used him before. He's very good at his job. Then we need to be better at ours." Michael sat across from her. "Tell me everything about him. How he works, what he looks for." "He's thorough, traditional, starts with the most likely places and works his way out." Alex's business training kicked in, analyzing the threat methodically. He'll check hotels first, then rental properties, looking for single women matching my description who appeared around the time I disappeared. "But you're not alone in a hotel," Michael pointed out. "You're here, with a family, in a neighborhood he'd have no reason to check." Alex looked up sharply. "With a family?" Michael's ears reddened slightly, but he held her gaze. "That's what Lucy's drawing says, isn't it?" Before Alex could respond, Lucy returned, her hands clean, but her shirt still dusted with flour. "Can we finish the dumplings now?" "Actually," Michael said, an idea forming, "how about we go out for dinner? There's that new Chinese place in the Mission District." Alex understood immediately. Stay visible, act normal, but change their patterns enough to avoid routine observation. She'd learned something about strategy from all those corporate meetings after all. The restaurant was bustling with evening customers. They sat in a booth near the back, Lucy chattering excitedly about their dumpling-making adventures. To anyone watching, they would look like any other family enjoying dinner together. But Alex couldn't help scanning the room periodically, her corporate training making her aware of exits, of sightlines, of the businessman sitting alone who might not be just a businessman. "Hey," Michael's hand covered hers on the table. "Stay with us here. Now's not the time to look suspicious." He was right. Alex forced herself to relax, to laugh at Lucy's jokes, to share bites of food across the table like they always did at home. Home. When had she started thinking of their apartment that way? Later that night, after Lucy was asleep, they sat at the kitchen table with cups of tea, the business card between them like a harbinger. "Barrett's good," Alex said quietly, "but he's also predictable. He'll start with my usual circles, luxury hotels, high-end restaurants, exclusive neighborhoods, places Alexandra Morrison would go. But that's not you anymore," Michael observed. "No," she smiled faintly. "Now I shop at discount grocery stores and know how to use a washing machine. Speaking of which," she gestured to his work clothes, "you should probably change sites for a few days. If Barrett's watching your usual spot." Michael nodded. "I can switch to the downtown project. We're short-handed there anyway since the earthquake." "I'm sorry," Alex said suddenly, "for bringing this to your door for putting Lucy at risk." "Stop!" Michael's voice was firm but gentle. "We chose this, all of us. Lucy with her drawing, me with—" He trailed off, their eyes meeting in the quiet kitchen. A car passed outside, its headlights sweeping across the walls. Alex instinctively moved away from the window. "We'll figure this out," Michael promised. "But you have to trust us. No running off in the middle of the night, no noble sacrifices. We face this together." Alex touched Lucy's drawing on the fridge, her fingers tracing the simple figures holding hands. "Together," she agreed softly. But as she lay awake that night on her familiar couch, Alex couldn't help wondering, how long could they really hide? In plain sight, and when Barrett finally found her, because he would eventually, what would she be willing to sacrifice to protect this fragile, precious thing they'd built? The old recipe card was yellowed at the edges, its handwritten instructions faded, but still legible. Sarah's chicken soup, the title proclaimed in careful cursive, with a small heart drawn in the corner. Alex found it while reorganizing the kitchen cabinets, her latest project in their ongoing effort to maintain normalcy, despite Barrett's looming presence. "That was my first real meal after Lucy was born," Michael said from behind her, making her jump slightly. Sarah insisted on making it herself, even though she could barely stand. Alex traced the ingredient list with gentle fingers. "Would it be okay if, would you mind if I tried to make it?" The look Michael gave her made her heart skip. I think she'd like that. Throughout the morning, Alex followed Sarah's instructions meticulously, treating each step like a connection to the woman who had shaped this family before her. Lucy perched on a kitchen stool, offering commentary and taste tests. "Mom used more pepper," she declared after sampling the broth, "and she always said the secret ingredient was love." "Is that written on the card?" Alex teased, but she added more pepper anyway. The apartment filled with the aroma of simmering chicken and vegetables. Michael, working from home to avoid Barrett, kept finding excuses to pass through the kitchen. Each time, his eyes held a mix of memory and possibility that made Alex's chest tight. "Mr. Chen?" Lucy's voice was unusually formal as they sat down to lunch. "I have a question about the parent-teacher conference next week." Michael paused with his spoon halfway to his mouth. "What about it?" "Well," Lucy glanced at Alex. "Usually, you can't come because of work, but maybe Alex could go. She's been helping with my homework anyway." The silence that followed was heavy with implication. Parent-teacher conferences were for family, for legal guardians. They all knew this. "Sweetheart," Michael started gently, but Alex interrupted. "I could just go as a family friend," she suggested, "if that's okay with your dad." Michael's eyes met hers over Lucy's head. "It's not that simple anymore, is it?" No, Alex thought. It wasn't. Nothing had been simple since that first moment. In the earthquake rubble, she took another spoonful of soup, letting its warmth fill her. "This is really good," Michael said after a moment, changing the subject. "Different from Sarah's, but good different, like you said before." Lucy nodded, enthusiastically. "Can we write it down, make a new recipe card?" And so they did. After lunch, Lucy brought out her best-colored pencils, and they created a new card together. "Alex's Chicken Soup," they titled it, and beneath the ingredients, Lucy insisted on adding, "Secret ingredient, new love." Alex's hands shook as she wrote down the steps, adding her own small heart in the corner. It felt both presumptuous and right, like everything about her place in their lives. "Dad," Lucy asked as they finished, "can Alex help me with my science? And Project 2, it's about earthquakes." Michael's smile was bittersweet. "Seems fitting." They spent the afternoon building a model of tectonic plates using materials from Michael's worksite. Alex discovered she had a knack for the technical aspects, her business mind adapting easily to geological concepts. "See?" she explained to Lucy, demonstrating with the model. "Sometimes pressure builds up slowly, and when it finally releases, everything changes." Michael finished softly, watching them work together. That evening, as they cleaned up from dinner, leftover soup even better the second time, Michael handed Alex the private investigator's card again. Barrett called today, he said quietly. I didn't answer. Alex's hands stilled on the dish. She was drying. He won't stop. I know. Michael moved closer, taking the dish from her trembling fingers. But neither will we. Their eyes met in the small kitchen, the space between them charged with unspoken words. On the fridge, 2 recipe cards and a crayon drawing told a story of what they could be, what they were becoming despite everything trying to tear them apart. The soup was really good, Michael said finally, his voice rough with emotion. Different, Alex corrected with a small smile. But good different. Lucy's voice drifted from the living room where she was finishing homework. Alex, can you help me with this last problem? They both knew she wasn't just talking about math. Every moment they shared, every domestic task they tackled together, was another problem to solve, another step away from who they'd been and toward who they could be. Alex touched Sarah's recipe card one last time before going to help Lucy. The faded handwriting seemed to approve somehow of this new chapter, being written in her family's story. The magazine arrived in Ms. Rodriguez's mailbox by mistake. Their elderly neighbor would have simply brought it over, except the cover story caught her eye. Morrison Industries in Crisis, the true story behind the missing heiress. The photo, spread inside, left no room for doubt. Their Alex in designer clothes and elaborate updos at galas and board meetings spanning the past 5 years. When she brought it to Michael's door, her face was tight with concern. I think you need to... See this, she said, pressing the magazine into his hands. And I think you need to be careful. Alex was helping Lucy with breakfast when Michael walked into the kitchen, the glossy publication held loosely at his side. One look at his face told her everything. Lucy, Michael said quietly, why don't you go get ready for school? But I haven't finished my... Now, please! Once Lucy was gone, Michael placed the magazine on the table between them. Alex stared at her own face on the cover, feeling like she was looking at a stranger. How bad is it? She asked, not reaching him for the magazine. Bad enough. Michael opened to the main article. They're saying you had a breakdown after your father announced the succession plan, that you've shown increasingly erratic behavior over the past year. They've got quotes from your ex-fiancé. Alex's laugh was bitter. Ex-fiancé? I never even agreed to date him. He was my father's choice. Merger material, not marriage material. There's more. Michael's voice was carefully neutral. They're suggesting you might be mentally unstable, that you need to be found for your own protection. Of course they are. Alex stood abruptly, pacing the small kitchen. That's my father's playbook. He did the same thing to my mother when she tried to leave, painted her as unstable, claimed she needed help. By the time she convinced anyone otherwise, he had full custody of me and control of her shares in the company. Alex. No, you don't understand. She whirled to face him. This isn't just about finding me anymore. Once they do, they'll make sure I can't leave again. There are private hospitals that cater to wealthy families, places where problems like me disappear until we recover enough to play our assigned roles. Michael's hand tightened on the magazine. I won't let that happen. You can't stop it. None of us can. My father has the best lawyers, the best doctors, the best PR team. They're already laying the groundwork with this article. Who do you think they'll believe? The respected businessman worried about his daughter, or the unstable heiress hiding in a construction worker's apartment? The hurt that flashed across Michael's face made her regret the words immediately. Is that all this is to you? He asked quietly. A hiding place? No, God, no. Alex sank back into her chair, fighting tears. This is the only real thing in my life, you and Lucy these past weeks. I've never been more myself than I am here. Then fight back. Michael reached across the table, taking her hand. We'll fight with you. I can't ask you to do that. My father will destroy anyone who helps me. He'll dig into your past, your finances, your relationship with Lucy. He'll find any weakness he can use. Let him try. Michael's voice was steel. I've got nothing to hide. Lucy's voice came from the doorway, making them both start. Is Alex in trouble? They turned to find her clutching her backpack, eyes wide as she looked at the magazine on the table. "Come here, sweetheart," Alex said softly. Lucy came to stand beside her chair, and Alex took both her hands. "Remember how I said family was complicated? Well, my complicated family is trying to make me go back to them." "But you're our family now," Lucy protested. "You can't leave." Alex pulled her into a fierce hug, meeting Michael's eyes over Lucy's head. The love and determination she saw there both strengthened and terrified her. "The article mentions a board meeting next week," Michael said. "Your father's going to announce temporary leadership changes until you're well enough to return. He's making his move." Alex's business training kicked in, analyzing the strategy. Once he has control, finding me becomes secondary. He wins either way. "Unless you show up first," Michael suggested. "On your terms. That's suicide. That's fighting back." He tapped the magazine. "They're painting you as unstable, hiding from responsibilities. So show them Alexandra Morrison choosing her own path. Show them you're not running from duty, but toward truth." Lucy squeezed Alex tighter. "We'll help. Like with the earthquake models, sometimes pressure makes things stronger." Alex looked around the kitchen, at the life they'd built together. The recipe cards on the fridge, Lucy's drawing, the jade pendant catching morning light at Michael's throat. Everything she'd never known she needed until an earthquake brought her here. "If we do this," she said slowly, "we do it together. All of us. No matter what my father throws at us. Together," Lucy agreed immediately. Michael reached out, taking both their hands, completing their circle. Together. But as they held each other in the morning light, Alex couldn't silence the voice in her head warning that sometimes the things we love most are the things we have to let go to protect them. The Morrison family ring sat heavy in Alex's palm, platinum and diamonds arranged in an intricate pattern that had graced the hands of Morrison women for 3 generations. She'd kept it wrapped in a sock at the bottom of her borrowed duffel bag, unable to leave it behind, but unwilling to wear it. "It's beautiful," Lucy breathed, peering at the ring in the afternoon light streaming through the apartment windows, "like something from a fairy tale." "More like a chain," Alex said quietly. "Every Morrison bride has worn it. It's supposed to represent our commitment to the family legacy." Michael looked up from the laptop, where he'd been researching Morrison Industries. Since the magazine article, they'd been planning their next move, trying to stay one step ahead of Alex's father. "Your mother wore it?" he asked. Alex nodded. "Until the divorce, my father made a big show of taking it back, like he was reclaiming the family honor." She closed her fist around the ring. "I used to think it was romantic, this symbol of belonging. Now I see it for what it is, a brand of ownership." The sound of car doors closing outside made them all tense. Since the article, every unexpected noise brought fear of discovery. Michael moved to the window, checking discreetly. "Just the neighbors," he reported, but his shoulders remained tight. They'd been living in a state of heightened alertness for days. Ms. Rodriguez had become their unofficial lookout, reporting any unfamiliar cars or people in the neighborhood. Lucy's teachers had been told not to release her to anyone but Michael. Even their evening walks had stopped. Too risky to be seen together in public now. "I found something," Michael said, turning the laptop so Alex could see. "Your father's giving a press conference tomorrow. They're announcing temporary leadership changes, just like we thought." Alex scanned the press release draft someone had leaked. "He's not wasting any time. Once he has control, finding me becomes less urgent. He wins either way, unless you stop him." Michael's voice was gentle but firm. "You know the company better than anyone. You've been training for this your whole life." "I know the company, yes, but he knows how to manipulate people, situations." Alex stood, pacing restlessly. "You don't understand what he's capable of. Then help me understand." Alex held up the ring. "When I was 16, I caught our CFO embezzling funds. I took the evidence to my father, thinking he'd be proud of me for protecting the company. Instead, he explained that the CFO's gambling addiction made him controllable, valuable. Then he taught me how to use that information to ensure the man's loyalty. Lucy, who had been quietly drawing at the table, looked up with troubled eyes. That's not right. No, it's not, Alex agreed. But in my father's world, everything and everyone is a piece to be played. Even his own daughter, Michael, crossed the room, taking her hands in his. The ring pressed between their palms, cold despite their shared warmth. You're not a piece in his game anymore, he said firmly. You're Alex, who makes lumpy dumplings and helps with science projects and knows all the words to Lucy's favorite songs. The press conference, Lucy piped up suddenly. That's like when Jenny Parker was being mean to kids at school, but she always did it when teachers weren't watching. So I waited until assembly and told everyone what she was doing, where all the grown-ups could hear. Alex and Michael stared at her. Lucy, you're brilliant, Alex breathed. The press conference. It's the perfect opportunity. He'll have cultivated every reporter there, but he can't control live television. If I show up, you can tell your story before he can spin it, Michael finished. But Alex, it's dangerous. You'll be walking right into his territory. She opened her hand, looking at the ring again. Maybe it's time to stop running and start fighting. On my terms, not his. Our terms, Lucy corrected, coming to stand with them. We're family now, remember? Michael touched his jade pendant, then reached for the ring in Alex's palm. May I? She nodded, letting him take it. To her surprise, he walked to the window and held it up to the light, studying the pattern of diamonds. Sarah used to say that the strongest bonds aren't the ones forced on us, but the ones we choose freely. He turned back to Alex. Whatever. You decide however you want to play this, we're with you, not because of any ring or obligation, but because we choose to be. Alex felt tears prick her eyes. Here, in this modest apartment with its crayon drawings and recipe cards, she'd found something her father's wealth could never buy. The freedom to choose her own path, her own family, her own love. Okay, she said, straightening her shoulders. Then let's choose to fight. Together, Lucy hugged her waist. Together. Michael slipped the ring into Alex's pocket, then took her hand. His calloused palm against hers felt more authentic than any piece of jewelry ever could. But as they began to plan their next moves, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that her father already had his own plans in motion. The ring in her pocket seemed to grow heavier, a reminder that some legacies aren't easily escaped. The stack of legal documents arrived by courier to Michael's construction site. Thick manila envelopes marked with the Morrison Industries logo and stamped confidential in bold red letters. Inside, dozens of pages of corporate succession papers, emergency board resolutions, and most disturbingly, a petition for emergency conservatorship. Michael called Alex immediately from his truck. They're making their move, he said without preamble. And it's worse than we thought. Back at the apartment, they spread the papers across the kitchen table after Lucy had gone to bed. Alex's hand shook as she read through the conservatorship petition. He's not just trying to take the company, she whispered. He's trying to take my life, all of it. Legal control over where I live, who I see, every decision I make. Can he do that? With the right doctors, the right lawyers, and enough money? Alex laughed bitterly. He's been laying the groundwork for months. The erratic behavior, the disappearance, the media narrative about my mental state. Now this. She held up a medical affidavit. Dr. Preston claims I showed signs of psychological instability during my last physical. A physical I never actually had. Michael studied the documents with a contractor's attention to detail. There are a lot of signatures here, board members, family friends, business associates, all people who owe my father favors or fear what he could do to them. Alex rubbed her temples. The company bylaws require a succession plan. If I'm declared mentally unfit, control reverts to the previous CEO, my father, until a new successor can be appointed. Convenient. He's thorough. Always has been. Alex picked up another document. Look at this. He's even got statements from my old housekeepers about concerning behavior. Maria, I trusted her. She used to sneak me cookies when I was little. Michael touched her hand gently. Hey, remember what we decided? We fight this together. But how? Alex gestured at the papers. This is what I was afraid of. He's not just coming after me anymore. Look. She pulled out a thin folder labeled Chen Family Background. Inside were details about Michael's finances, Lucy's school records, even Sarah's medical history. A post-it note in her father's handwriting read simply, "Leverage." Michael's jaw tightened. He thinks he can threaten us. He knows he can. This is just a taste of what he'll do. Alex stood pacing the small kitchen. He'll dig deeper, find anything he can use, maybe question your fitness as a single parent, or stop. Michael's voice was firm. This is what he wants. To make. You feel powerless, isolated, but you're not alone anymore? Alex turned to him, tears in her eyes. I can't let him hurt you, either of you. Maybe if I just go back, agree to treatment, and let him win. Let him lock you away in some private hospital until you're cured enough to be the daughter he wants. Michael stood, crossing to her. The Alex I know doesn't give up. The Alex you know is just starting to exist, she whispered. I'm only now figuring out who I really am, without his influence. Exactly, and that's worth fighting for. A floorboard creaked, revealing Lucy in her pajamas, watching them from the hallway. I couldn't sleep, she said quietly. Are the bad papers here? Alex quickly wiped her eyes. They're just complicated grown-up papers, sweetie. Lucy padded over to the table, looking at the scattered documents. They look like when Mom was sick. Lots of papers saying scary things. Michael touched his jade pendant, a reflexive gesture of connection to Sarah. Sometimes papers like these try to make simple things complicated, like family and love and doing what's right. Mom always said papers don't matter as much as people, Lucy stated with childhood certainty. She made us promise, remember, Dad, to not let papers change what's in our hearts. Alex looked at them both, this father and daughter who had taken her in, given her a home, shown her what family really meant. The legal documents seemed to fade in importance against the weight of that love. Your mum was very wise, she said, softly. The wisest, Michael agreed. He gathered Lucy close with one arm, reaching for Alex with the other. And she'd tell us to fight, not with lawyers and documents, but with truth. Lucy yawned against his shoulder. Like in my stories, the truth breaks evil spells. Alex touched the papers with new resolve. Everything her father had built his case on was technically legal, but fundamentally false. Maybe that was the key, not fighting him in the corporate arena where he held all the power, but in the court of public opinion where truth still mattered. The press conference, she said slowly. We need to be ready, not just for me to speak, but to show evidence, real evidence. Michael nodded, understanding. We've got 2 days. Think we can build a strong enough case? With your help? Alex managed a small smile. I think we can build anything. Lucy, half asleep now, mumbled something about fairy tales and happy endings. As Michael carried her back to bed, Alex looked at the documents scattered across their kitchen table. In the morning, they would begin gathering their own evidence, building their own truth. But for now, she simply breathed in the peace of this moment, of belonging somewhere real. The legal papers gleamed officiously in the dim light, but they seemed less threatening somehow. They were just papers. After all. And Lucy was right. Papers didn't change what was in their hearts. The old teddy bear had seen better days. Its once pristine fur was matted in places. One eye was slightly loose, and its red bow tie had faded to pink. Alex pulled it from the bottom of her duffel bag, where it had rested next to the Morrison. Ring all these months. This is Mr. Buttons, she told Lucy, who was helping her sort through her few possessions for anything they could use at the press conference. He's the only thing I have left from before everything became about the company. Lucy handled the bear with unexpected gentleness. He looks loved. He was. My mother gave him to me, the last Christmas before she left. Father wanted To throw him out after said he wasn't befitting a Morrison. But I hid him. Michael looked up from his laptop where he was compiling their evidence. Your mother, have you considered contacting her? Alex clutched Mr. Buttons tighter. I tried. Years ago. The private investigators my father hired to find her were very thorough. She's in Europe somewhere with a new family. She never answered my letters. The pain in her voice made Michael cross the room, placing a supportive hand on her shoulder. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me an important lesson about the Morrison way. Either you're useful to the family or you're gone. She stroked the bear's worn fur. Mr. Buttons was the last thing in my life that was just mine. No agenda, no expectations. Lucy sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by papers and photos they'd gathered. Until us? Until you, Alex agreed softly. The apartment had become their war room over the past day. Evidence of their preparation was everywhere. Printouts of financial records Alex had memorized during her years in training, testimonials from lower-level employees who'd witnessed questionable practices, medical records proving she'd never attended the sessions Dr. Preston claimed. The board meets in 18 hours, Michael noted, checking his watch. How are you holding up? Alex tried to smile. Oh, you know, just preparing to publicly confront my father, expose years of corporate manipulation, and probably destroy any chance of reconciliation with my family, all in a day's work. Alex, Michael's tone held a warning note. Don't hide behind sarcasm. Not with us. She deflated, hugging Mr. Buttons to her chest like the child she'd once been. I'm terrified, she admitted. Not of him exactly, but of failing, of letting everyone down. You mean letting us down, Michael said gently. Maybe, yes. She looked around the apartment, at Lucy's drawings on the fridge, the recipe cards, the jade pendant at Michael's throat. I've never had so much to lose before. Lucy abandoned her sorting to join them, leaning against Alex's side. Mom always said being scared just means something matters. Your mom said a lot of wise things, Alex observed, sharing a look with Michael. She also said, Michael added quietly, that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is let ourselves be loved. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Before Alex could respond, her burner phone buzzed, a text from one of the few loyal employees still feeding her information. The PR team is doing final prep for tomorrow, she read aloud. They've got plants in the press pool ready to ask specific questions about my mental state. She scrolled further. And they're planning to announce my replacement, Thomas Reed, your almost fiancé. Michael's voice was carefully neutral. Father's perfect choice, young, ambitious, and completely under his control. Alex's laugh was bitter. They probably had this planned before I even left. Lucy picked up the teddy bear again, straightening his crooked bow tie with determined fingers. Mr. Buttons wasn't scared of your dad, she declared. He stayed with you all this time. The simple observation hit Alex hard. This worn old bear had survived years of hiding, of pretending to be something else, just like she had. But now, no more hiding, she said firmly, taking the bear from Lucy. No more playing their games. She stood, energy coursing through her. Michael, can you get us into the construction site tonight? I need to see something. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. The downtown project, it's secure after hours. Perfect. Lucy, would you keep Mr. Buttons safe for me? I think he's done his duty protecting me. Maybe it's time for him to protect someone else. Lucy hugged the bear close. We'll both wait for you to come home. Home. Such a simple word for such a profound change. Alex looked at her small family. The man who had saved her in more ways than one, the child who saw truth so clearly, and the old bear who had witnessed her journey from prisoner to person. Tomorrow would bring its own battles, but tonight she needed to see the city from above, to remember who she was becoming, and to find the strength for what lay ahead. The downtown construction site loomed against the night sky, steel beams reaching toward the stars like silver bones. Alex stood on the temporary platform 30 stories up, the wind whipping her hair as she looked out over the city she'd rediscovered through new eyes. Michael's construction badge had gotten them past security. Now he stood slightly behind her, solid and steady, as the steel girders surrounding them. In her hand, she held a draft of her resignation letter, words she'd been writing and rewriting in her head since the earthquake. "This is what I needed to see," she said, raising her voice slightly against the wind. "The city from up here, it's so different from the boardroom view. Better or worse? Real." She moved closer to the edge, feeling the height in her bones. In the boardroom, everything looks like a model. Clean lines, perfect angles, all the mess hidden away. Up here, you see the truth, the work, the complexity, the actual lives being built. Michael joined her at the railing. "Sarah used to say the same thing. She'd bring Lucy up to my site sometimes, just to show her how things looked from different angles." Alex smiled, despite the tension thrumming through her. "Lucy told me. She said it was like being on top of the world. It can feel that way." He paused, studying her profile in the city lights. "But it can also show you how far there is to fall." Alex looked down at her letter. In careful, corporate language, it laid out her resignation from Morrison Industries, her reasons for leaving, her evidence of her father's manipulations. It was perfectly crafted, legally sound, and completely inadequate. "This isn't enough," she said suddenly, ripping the paper in half. "These words, they're still playing by his rules, still trying to be Alexandra Morrison, making a dignified exit. What do you want to be instead?" "Just Alex, speaking the truth." She let the torn papers flutter away into the darkness. No more carefully worded statements. No more diplomatic compromises. Her phone buzzed, another update from her inside source. The message made her breath catch. "What is it?" Michael asked, noting her expression. "They're moving up the timeline. The board meeting, it's not tomorrow afternoon anymore. It's first thing in the morning." She showed him the message. "They must know we're planning something." Michael's jaw tightened. "How much time do we have?" 8 hours. Alex gripped the railing, her knuckles white. "They'll have security everywhere. The press will be managed. Every board member will have been pressured or bought. And now we've lost the element of surprise. Then we change the game." Michael's voice held that same steady confidence he'd had during the earthquake. "You said it yourself. No more playing by their rules." Alex turned to him, really looking at him in the strange half-light of the construction lamps. This man, who built things with his hands, who raised his daughter with such gentle strength, who had taken in a stranger and helped her become herself. "I love you," she said suddenly, the words escaping before she could catch them. "I shouldn't say it now, with everything falling apart, but I do, and that terrifies me more than anything my father could do." Michael's hand found hers on the railing. "Why does it terrify you?" "Because love makes you vulnerable. It gives people power over you. My father taught me that lesson over and over." She squeezed his hand. "But being here with you and Lucy, it's teaching me something else. Something I'm only starting to understand." "What's that?" "That maybe love isn't a weakness. Maybe it's the only real strength we have." The city lights blurred as tears filled her eyes. Michael pulled her close, his warmth a shield against the wind. "Then let's use that strength," he said softly. "No more resignation letters. No more playing their game at all. Let's show them who you really are, who we are together." Alex's phone buzzed again. More messages about security arrangements, press restrictions, board member alignments. Her father's perfect corporate machine grinding into motion. But up here, above it all, something else was taking shape. A plan that had nothing to do with corporate strategy and everything to do with simple truth. "Lucy's at Ms. Rodriguez's?" she asked. Michael nodded. "Safe and sound. Probably teaching Mr. Buttons all about plate tectonics." Alex laughed. The sound carrying away on the wind. "Okay, then let's get to work. We've got 8 hours to tear down everything my father built and show the world something real instead." As they made their way back down through the skeleton of the building, Alex felt a strange sense of peace. Tomorrow would bring chaos, confrontation, and probably heartbreak. But for the first time in her life, she wasn't facing it alone. The torn pieces of her resignation letter danced away on the night wind, corporate jargon scattering like autumn leaves. She wouldn't need those words anymore. Tomorrow, she would speak from her heart instead. And finally, she knew exactly what it wanted to say. Dawn found them at the kitchen table, surrounded by hastily printed documents and empty coffee cups. The business proposal they'd spent all night crafting wasn't like anything Morrison Industries had seen before. It was part corporate restructuring, part ethical manifesto, and part love letter to the city they called home. Community Investment Initiative, Lucy read from her spot on the couch, still in her pajamas. She'd insisted on staying up with them, curled up with Mr. Buttons, and offering surprisingly insightful comments. That's a big word. Big words for big changes, Alex replied, reviewing their final draft. But the idea is simple. Use the company's resources to actually help people, not just make money. Michael pointed to a section of the proposal. The construction division alone could revolutionize affordable housing in the city. Your father's been sitting on patents for low-cost, earthquake-resistant building techniques for years. Because luxury developments have better profit margins, Alex nodded. But imagine if we combined those techniques with community-centered development, real homes for real people, built to last. The proposal laid out a vision that merged Morrison's corporate power with genuine social impact. Every page reflected their shared values. Michael's practical understanding of community needs, Alex's business acumen, and even Lucy's straightforward wisdom about doing the right thing. Your father won't like it, Michael said quietly. No, Alex agreed, but the board might, especially when they see the projected returns. Social responsibility isn't just good ethics anymore, it's good business. She touched the jade pendant she now wore alongside the Morrison ring, a gift from Michael just hours ago. The two pieces of jewelry represented her past and present, duty and love, finally finding a way to coexist. What time is it? Lucy asked, yawning. Almost 6. Michael checked his watch. The board meets at 8. Alex stood, stretching tired muscles. Then we should get ready. Ms. Rodriguez said she'd help with hair and makeup, make me look like Alexandra Morrison again, but on my terms this time. Wait! Lucy ran to her room, returning with something clutched in her hands. Mr. Buttons wants to help too. She'd attached a small note to the bear's faded bow tie. In careful child's handwriting it read, "Sometimes the bravest thing is being yourself." Alex hugged Lucy tight, tears threatening to ruin her soon-to-be-applied makeup. When did you get so wise? Mom taught Dad. Dad taught me. Now we're teaching you, Lucy said simply. That's how family works. The next hour passed in a blur of preparation. Ms. Rodriguez worked magic with Alex's hair, while Michael fielded texts from his construction crew. They'd all volunteered to help, positioning themselves strategically around the Morrison building. Remember, Michael reviewed their plan one last time. Security will be focused on the main entrance. The service entrance will be watched too, Alex finished. But they don't know about the maintenance corridor access from the adjacent building. Your crew's badges will get us through. And I'll be watching on the live stream, Lucy added proudly. She would be staying with Ms. Rodriguez, safely away from the confrontation, but able to see everything. Alex knelt before her, straightening the girl's school uniform. Keep Mr. Buttons close, okay? We might need his courage. You've got plenty of your own, Lucy said with complete conviction. Finally, they stood at the apartment door, the business proposal secured in Alex's briefcase. She wore one of her old power suits, retrieved from storage by a loyal former assistant, but the effect was different now. Instead of armor, it felt like costume, something to wear while speaking truth to power. Ready? Michael asked softly. Alex looked at their small family. The man who had saved her life and then her heart, the child who had taught her wisdom, could come in crayon colors, the elderly neighbor who had become their fierce protector. Even Mr. Buttons, sitting alertly in Lucy's arms, seemed to be offering support. "Ready," she said, meaning it. "Whatever happens in there, this is worth fighting for. You're worth fighting for." The morning sun streamed through their windows, catching the jade pendant and Morrison ring as they moved together in the light. Two worlds, finally finding a way to merge. Two paths, becoming one. The business proposal in her briefcase wasn't just a corporate document. It was a declaration of independence, a bridge between worlds, and a promise to build something new, something real. The blueprint spread across the boardroom table like a vision of the future. While security teams searched the building's main entrance for Alexandra Morrison, she stood before the board of directors, having entered through the maintenance corridor. Exactly as planned, Michael remained in the background, a steady presence in his construction gear. "This," Alex said, touching the blueprint, "is the future of Morrison Industries. Not just another luxury development, but a community center built to survive earthquakes, serve local needs, and prove that corporate success and social responsibility can coexist." Her father, Richard Morrison, sat at the head of the table, his face an expressionless mask. "Alexandra, how dramatic of you to crash our meeting. Actually, as I still hold controlling shares, I'm entitled to attend." She met his gaze steadily. "Though I understand you were planning to change that today." Murmurs rippled through the board members. Thomas Reed, her almost fiancé, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "We've been concerned about your stability," Richard said smoothly. "Your recent behavior, you mean my choice to live authentically? To see how the real world works?" Alex gestured to the blueprint. "Everything on this table came from that choice, from learning what our company could really be." She walked the board through the proposal, pointing out how each element served, both profit and purpose. The community center was just the beginning, a proof of concept for a complete corporate transformation. "The patents we've been sitting on," she highlighted specific technical drawings, "combined with local construction expertise," she nodded to Michael, "could revolutionize affordable housing, not just here, but in every earthquake-prone region. At significantly reduced profits," Richard countered. "At sustainable profits," Alex corrected, "with reduced liability, increased community support, and a market position that attracts conscious investors." The numbers are all there. She could see some board members leaning forward, interested despite themselves. Years of corporate training helped her read the room. The younger directors especially were intrigued. "And this," Richard gestured to Michael, "construction worker helped develop this plan. Michael Chen has built half the structures in this city," Alex said proudly. "He understands what communities need because he's part of one, something we used to be before profit became our only measure of success." "Used to be?" Richard's voice turned dangerous. "I built this company from nothing. Everything we have came from exploitation," Alex cut in. "From treating people as resources instead of humans, from forgetting that business should serve life, not consume it." She touched her jade pendant, drawing strength. "But that's not why I'm really here." "No," Richard's eyebrow raised. "Then enlighten us." "I'm here because running away taught me how to stand up. Living with real people showed me what real leadership looks like." She straightened to her full height. "I'm not asking for the board's permission to implement these changes. I'm informing you that they're happening. You dare." "Yes, I dare." Alex's voice rang with authority. "Because I finally understand something you never did, Father. True power doesn't come from controlling people. It comes from helping them grow." She nodded to Michael, who distributed folders to each board member. "Inside, you'll find documented evidence of multiple ethics violations, manipulated medical records, and financial misconduct. Also, my vision for the company's future. You can choose which story the press hears today." Richard Morrison's face had turned an alarming shade of red. "You would destroy your own family's legacy." "No," Alex said softly. "I'm saving it. Just not in the way you planned." She turned to the board. "I move to implement the community investment. initiative immediately, starting with the earthquake-resistant community center. I also moved to establish an independent ethics committee with real oversight power. I second the motion, came a quiet voice. Everyone turned to see Thomas Reed standing. She's right. I've seen the corruption too. I was just too afraid to fight it. Alex gave him a small nod of respect. Perhaps she wasn't the only one finding courage. One by one, hands raised in support. Richard Morrison watched his control slip away as the vote passed overwhelmingly. "This isn't over," he said quietly. "No," Alex agreed. "It's just beginning. But for the first time, it's beginning honestly." She gathered the blueprint carefully, this physical representation of bridges being built between worlds. Outside the boardroom windows, she could see the city stretching away toward the bay, toward home, toward love. The jade pendant sat warm against her skin, while the Morrison ring felt lighter somehow. Both part of her now, neither defining her completely. Just like the blueprint, they represented the possibility of harmony between different worlds. The house key was nothing special, just brass and steel newly cut. But as Alex held it in her palm 3 months after the board meeting, it felt heavier than the Morrison ring ever had. This small piece of metal represented something she'd never had before, a home she'd chosen for herself. "The inspection passed," Michael said, coming up behind her as she stood in the empty living room of their new house. "Everything's up to code, including the earthquake retrofitting." "Of course it is," Alex smiled. "You supervised it yourself." The house wasn't grand by Morrison standards, a modest 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood with a small backyard and good schools nearby. But it had large windows that caught the morning light, solid bones that had weathered decades of earthquakes, and most importantly, room for all of them. "Lucy's already planning her room colors," Michael said, wrapping his arms around her waist. "I think we're going to be living with a lot of purple." "I can live with that." Alex leaned back against him. "How's the community center project going?" "On schedule. The new construction techniques are working even better than expected." He kissed her temple. "Your father still giving you trouble about it?" "He's backed off since the ethics committee started their investigation." Amazing how sunshine can disinfect even the most entrenched corruption. The past 3 months had been a whirlwind of change. The Community Investment Initiative had garnered national attention, attracting partners and investors excited about merging profit with purpose. Alex split her time between corporate responsibilities and hands-on community involvement, learning from the people her decisions affected. "Ms. Rodriguez says she'll miss us," Alex said softly, "even though we're only moving 20 minutes away. She's already planning weekly dinner visits. Says she needs to make sure we're feeding Lucy properly." The sound of footsteps thundering up the front porch interrupted them. Lucy burst in, waving a paper triumphantly. "My earthquake project got an A+, she announced, "and Ms. Johnson wants to display it at the new community center when it opens." Alex and Michael exchanged proud glances. Lucy's project had combined scientific accuracy with personal experience, telling the story of how natural disasters could bring people together instead of tearing them apart. "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Alex said, then noticed Lucy was carrying something else. "What's that?" Lucy held up a familiar teddy bear, now sporting a small, hard hat alongside his faded bow tie. "Mr. Buttons wanted to supervise the move. He says the foundation looks good." "Does he now?" Michael laughed. "Maybe. We should hire him as a consultant." Lucy placed the bear on the windowsill, where he could oversee their unpacking. "He also says we need a housewarming party, with dumplings." "Oh, he does he?" Alex pretended to consider it. "Well, I suppose we could invite Ms. Rodriguez and your dad's construction crew, and maybe even Thomas." Her almost fiancé had become an unexpected ally in the company's transformation, using his insider knowledge to help the ethics committee root out old corruption. People could surprise you, Alex had learned, if you gave them the chance to be their best selves. "And ice cream?" Lucy asked hopefully. "And ice cream," Michael confirmed. "But first, we need to actually move in. Those boxes won't unpack themselves." They spent the afternoon bringing their life into the new space, finding homes for Lucy's books, Michael's tools, Alex's slowly growing collection of normal person clothes. Each item they unpacked felt like another brick in the foundation they were building together. The key stayed in Alex's pocket, occasionally pressing against her hip to remind her this was real. She was really here, really free, really loved. As evening approached, they ordered pizza and sat on the floor of their empty dining room, sharing paper towels and dreams for the space around them. "We should paint this wall blue," Lucy declared between bites, "like the ocean. We could put a garden in the backyard," Michael suggested, "grow our own vegetables. And a library corner here," Alex added, "with comfortable chairs for reading." The future stretched before them, not predetermined by corporate strategies or family expectations, but open to whatever they chose to build together. Later, after Lucy had fallen asleep on an air mattress in her soon-to-be purple room, Alex stood in their new kitchen. The key sat on the counter beside her jade pendant and the Morrison ring. Past, present, and future aligned at last. Michael found her there, lost in thought. Having second thoughts? The opposite. She turned to him, eyes bright. "I'm having first thoughts, real ones, about a real future. Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life." "Believe it," he said, pulling her close. "We built it together, didn't we? And I happen to know a thing or two about strong foundations." Outside, the city hummed with life. Somewhere in it, a community center was rising, its blueprint becoming reality. But here, in this modest house with the people she loved, Alex had found something even more precious, a place to belong exactly as she was. The wedding ring was neither platinum like the Morrison ring, nor jade like Michael's pendant. Instead, it was a simple band of rose gold, chosen together at a small jewelry shop in their neighborhood. Inside, they'd had it inscribed with 3 words: "Real love builds." Alex studied it in the morning light streaming through their kitchen window. 6 months had passed since they'd moved into the house, and today was the day they'd make it official. Not with a grand society wedding, but with a small ceremony in the newly completed community center. "Are you ready?" Lucy appeared in the doorway, resplendent in her purple bridesmaid dress, Mr. Buttons, sporting a matching bow tie in her arms. "Almost." Alex touched the jade pendant that had become part of her daily wear. "Just thinking about how much has changed." The community center had opened last week to widespread acclaim. Its earthquake-resistant design was already being replicated in other cities, while its community programs were transforming lives. Even her father had been forced to acknowledge its success, though he'd done so through gritted teeth. "Dad's nervous too," Lucy reported with a grin. "He keeps adjusting his tie." "Tell him to stop," Alex laughed. Ms. Rodriguez spent ages getting it perfect. Their elderly neighbor had taken charge of wedding preparations with military precision, coordinating everything from flowers to seating arrangements. The guest list was an unusual mix: construction workers alongside corporate executives, community members beside society figures. Alexandra, a familiar voice, made her turn. Her father stood in the doorway, looking uncomfortable in casual wedding attire rather than his usual suit. "Father?" Alex straightened, instinctively protective of the joy this day represented. "I didn't expect you until the ceremony." Richard Morrison moved into the kitchen, his eyes taking in the modest but warm space. Lucy quietly slipped out, giving them privacy, but leaving the door slightly ajar. They'd all learned to be careful with Alex's father. "The Morrison ring," he said finally. "You're not wearing it." "No." Alex touched her bare finger where it had once sat. "I left it at the office. It belongs to the company now, not to me personally. Like it should have been all along. And this new ring," he gestured to the rose gold band waiting in its box. "It's rather simple. It's real," Alex said firmly. "Like everything else in my life now." Her father was silent for a long moment, looking around the kitchen with its cheerful curtains and children's artwork. "I still don't understand," he said finally. You had everything. Position, power, a future planned to perfection, and you chose this. No, Father, I chose myself. And in choosing myself, I found everything I never knew I needed. She met his eyes steadily. The company is thriving. Our new initiatives are making real change. Isn't that what you always wanted? To build something lasting. I wanted to build something powerful. Power comes in many forms. Love, for instance. She smiled slightly. Something I learned from an earthquake, of all things. A noise from the hallway made them both turn. Michael stood there in his wedding suit, looking more handsome than any CEO Alex had ever met. Sorry to interrupt, he said, not sounding sorry at all. But we should head to the center soon. There's a chance of rain later. Richard Morrison looked between them, seeing something that made his expression shift slightly. He makes you happy? This different life. He makes me real, Alex corrected. They both do, and that makes me happier than I ever knew was possible. Her father straightened his shoulders, every inch the corporate titan despite his casual clothes. Then, I suppose, that is, I should... He stopped, then tried again. Perhaps power and happiness aren't always the same thing. It wasn't an apology or even really an acceptance. But from Richard Morrison it was practically a blessing. You're welcome to stay, Alex said softly, to be part of this different life if you want to. Before he could respond, Lucy burst back in, trailed by Ms. Rodriguez fussing about schedules and weather forecasts. Everyone's waiting, Lucy announced, and Mr. Button says it's bad luck to be late to your own wedding. Alex laughed, the sound pure and free. Well, we can't argue with Mr. Buttons, can we? She picked up the rose gold ring, its simple elegance a testament to the life she'd chosen. Behind her, Michael and her father reached an unspoken détente, united at least in their love for her, if nothing else. Outside, clouds threatened rain. Not ideal for a wedding, perhaps, but somehow fitting. After all, their love had been born in the aftermath of a natural disaster. What was a little rain to people who had weathered earthquakes together? The ring caught the light as they headed for their cars, its warm glow promising not power or position, but something far more precious. The chance to build a life of their own design, founded on love and strengthened by truth. 1 year to the day after the earthquake, they gathered at the community center to bury the time capsule. Lucy had suggested it as a way to commemorate both the disaster and the love that had grown from its ruins. What should we put in first? She asked, holding the steel container they'd specially designed to withstand future earthquakes. Michael's construction team had helped her paint it purple, of course. Alex held up the Morrison family ring. This belongs to history now, she said, placing it carefully inside. Her father, standing at the edge of the small crowd, nodded almost imperceptibly. Michael added his original construction worker ID badge, the one that had helped them slip past security during the confrontation at Morrison Industries. For luck, he said with a wink. Lucy placed Mr. Buttons inside with extraordinary care. He's done his job protecting us, she declared. Now he can protect our memories too. One by one, they added items that told their story. The recipe cards, both Sarah's and Alex's versions. The business proposal that had changed Morrison Industries, a copy of Lucy's A-plus earthquake project, the magazine article that had threatened to tear them apart, the blueprint for the community center, and a photo of their small wedding in this very building. Ms. Rodriguez contributed the newspaper from the day of the earthquake. So no one forgets where it all began, she said firmly. Thomas Reed, now head of the company's ethics committee, added the first official report documenting the corporate transformation. For transparency, he said, catching Alex's approving smile. Even Richard Morrison stepped forward, surprising everyone by adding an old photo of Alex as a child, clutching Mr. Buttons. For remembrance, he said gruffly. Finally, Alex placed their wedding rings, her rose gold band and Michael's matching one, on top of everything else. They weren't the originals, of course, but identical copies made for this purpose. For love, she said simply. The gathering had drawn quite a crowd. Construction workers who'd helped build the center stood alongside corporate executives who now helped run its programs. Children from the after-school programs mixed with elderly residents who taught community classes. It was exactly the kind of integration they'd dreamed of creating. "Should we say something?" Michael asked quietly. Alex looked around at their assembled family, blood and chosen, corporate and community, all the pieces of her life finally fitting together perfectly. "A year ago," she began, her voice carrying in the afternoon air, "an earthquake shook this city. It destroyed buildings, disrupted lives, and seemed like the end of so many things. But sometimes what looks like an ending is really a beginning." She took Michael's hand, drawing strength from his steady presence. "This community center stands as proof that from destruction we can build something stronger, something better. Not just buildings, but connections. Not just profits, but purpose." Lucy stepped forward, still holding the time capsule's lid. "Mum always said that love builds the strongest foundations," she added. "And now we have lots of love building lots of things." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Alex squeezed Michael's hand, feeling the wedding ring that matched the one in the capsule. "In 50 years," she continued, "someone will open this capsule and find pieces of our story. They'll see how an earthquake brought together a construction worker and an heiress, a father and daughter, a community and a corporation. They'll see that sometimes the biggest changes come from the smallest moments of truth. And they'll see," Michael added, "that real love builds more than just buildings." They sealed the capsule together, Alex, Michael and Lucy, before lowering it into its prepared space in the community center's cornerstone. As the construction team carefully sealed it in, Alex looked around at everything they'd built. The community center hummed with activity. Through its windows, she could see children in the learning center, seniors in the computer lab, young entrepreneurs in the business incubator spaces. Every aspect of the building incorporated lessons learned from both their worlds: corporate, efficiency meeting community needs, profit supporting purpose. Her father approached as the crowd began to disperse. "You've built something remarkable here," he said quietly. "Different from what I imagined for you, but remarkable nonetheless." "We built it together," Alex corrected gently. "All of us." Lucy tugged at her hand. "Can we get ice cream now? Mr. Buttons would want us to celebrate." "Mr. Buttons is very wise," Michael laughed. "Ice cream sounds perfect." As they walked toward their favorite local shop, Alex glanced back at the community center. Somewhere in its foundation, their story was now sealed away, waiting for future generations to discover. But the real story, she knew, was still being written, in every life touched by their work, every bridge built between worlds, every moment of love chosen over power. The jade pendant rested against her chest, while her wedding ring caught the afternoon light, different symbols of belonging, both equally true. Above them, the sky threatened rain, just like on their wedding day. But they had learned not to fear storms, these three people who had found each other in the rubble of an earthquake. After all, they knew better than most. Sometimes it takes a little shaking up to build something truly unshakable.